Hello, welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting frisky today. I like it. I like this. Usually you're like, yeah, what do you want, dick? But now you're like, hey, bro, what's up? I'm like, yeah, all right. I like this. I like this side of you, Zero. For those of you who don't know, we have a very abusive relationship. Zero, underneath this facade of being this nice, easygoing guy, is really just a stone cold jerk who likes to belittle me at any chance he gets.
I am not.
You have people fooled, but man, I gotta tell you, there are times that we get off the call and I'm crying afterwards. So why doesn't Zero love me?
I am not that mean.
No, you are definitely not that mean. No, you are not. No. I'm the dick in the relationship, and I'm not that big of a dick. But anyway, Zero, we had some interesting topics that happened this week, and we're going to start with something that you requested that is very interesting. It's not really a story per se, but it's an observation of what's going on with, I guess, what is now your favorite handheld, the Steam Deck. So why don't you go ahead and discuss what's going on with the Steam Deck now, aside from the fact that it's doing very well right now. So go ahead.
So this kind of harkens back to when we were discussing the Tokyo Game Show. So Valve really made a serious push on getting the marketing right for the Steam Deck for Japan.
Okay.
And it's apparently paying off in spades. And for anyone who's wondering what Valve did in Japan, they partnered up with a English-speaking YouTuber who I guess she has a bit of a following in Japan. And they basically had her do sort of like a, hey, here's how the Steam Deck works, here's how some of the games look like, and so on and so forth. So they had her doing streams pretty much every day of the Tokyo Game Show. So you had that to sort of bring the Steam Deck to the mindset of Japanese gamers who couldn't go to the show floor at Tokyo Game Show. So that was one angle of attack. Second angle of attack, they partnered up with Square Enix to showcase some of the games that are being played on Steam. And every now and again, these two streamers, one was an English streamer who has expatriated to Japan and has been doing Japanese streaming content. Mm-hmm. And then the other person in the stream was a woman who's been a lifelong Japanese PC gamer. And they were playing Steam games, but every once in a while they would mention, hey, by the way, did you know this game works great on Steam Deck? And then, of course, they'd have some banter of, oh my goodness, that's cool. You can play this game portably? That is a really wild thought. So you had these two who were playing Steam games all weekend, pretty much kind of marketing up Steam and the Steam Deck. And then the last angle of attack was having a major booth presence at the Tokyo Game Show. They had demo units for people who were actually on the show floor to actually play. And apparently it's really won over the hearts and minds of Japanese gamers, especially since PC gaming, for anyone who hasn't really looked into the culture of Japanese gamers in PC gaming, it's mostly relegated to, or it has had the stigma of being mostly relegated to people who play porn visual novel games, or just people who are really serious otaku about PC gaming. So we're talking about the RGB'd out towers and just the whole battle station setup, which is large and extravagant for the living spaces that Japanese folks have, if anyone's familiar with how small Japanese homes can be.
Yeah.
So a device that is a little bigger and a little chunkier than a Switch, but can play all of the new PC games, both major label and indie label, has apparently won the hearts and minds of the Japanese public. And Famitsu and Automation Media in Japan, they basically did sort of a survey of convention goers, and apparently just everyone has just been really excited to just get their hands on it as far as Japanese gamers go. But what's even more curious still is that you have developers in Japan who are now seriously interested in developing PC games for Steam now because of the Steam Deck.
Now, specifically for Steam, these are developers who didn't develop for the PC at all, but because Steam has the Steam Deck, now they're interested in PC in general, or is it just for doing it for the Steam Deck specifically?
I believe from what I was reading in both the Famitsu and Automation Media surveys, there are developers who have never ever developed on PC, because they were just like, okay, we'd have to get someone who's good at PC. We'd have to look into porting and how easy it is to port to Steam and so on and so forth. That's just way too much work when we've already got a good working relationship with the Japanese console players and everything. But yeah, just now you have some of these developers who originally would have never even considered PC. Now they're thinking about doing PC development, all just because the Steam Deck makes it possible to play PC games, and you don't need a giant, bulky PC tower to do it.
Yeah, and that's a pretty attractive thing with the Steam Deck, really, that it allows you to play these really good-looking games without having that big of a PC to do so. My question, so what they did was they showcased a bunch of games that work on the Steam Deck. Is that what they did for Tokyo Game Show, or?
Essentially, yeah,
Okay.
because you also had stuff like Yakuza Like a Dragon that was being shown off on the Steam Deck, both on stream and at some of the demo stations and stuff like that. So games that are in the minds of a lot of Japanese gamers right now, they had a bunch of those running on the Steam Deck booth area, so people could literally get their hands on it and go, "Oh my god, this thing really does run the game! Holy shit!"
I mean, that was a great move by Valve to do this. I remember we talked about this a lot during the Not E3 week, that we were surprised that, especially with the PC gaming show, that none of these developers were willing to say works great on Steam Deck, or even like other like companies were saying, hey, this works well on Steam Deck. Like, if you have a Steam Deck, you can play this game on there. And I was very surprised that none of the developers or any of the companies were willing to stick their neck out with that in order to do that. Why was this different? Why did they decide to do something like this in Japan, but not in the US?
Yeah, as far as that, that is a bit of a mystery to me, but my presumption is Valve sees Japan as one of the most untapped markets for Steam, and that has since changed ever since this whole Steam Blitz at Tokyo Game Show, because previous to Tokyo Game Show, Japan wasn't even on the top 10 list of most active regions buying games from Steam. And ever since the whole major presence that Valve has put on, Japan is now in the top 10.
Wow.
They've just climbed from nothing to boom. We are now one of the top 10 regions buying PC games on Steam.
That's huge. Look, not like Valve needs more money, but that's huge. And that bodes well for the Steam Deck as well, because then that means it is more than likely there's probably a business there where they want to update those Steam Decks every, what do you think, 2 to 3 years, like an iPhone, essentially? Like,
yeah, I mean, I could see something like an iterative sort of cycle, or maybe you get some of the other bigger players like Asus, Gigabyte, or someone like that. Maybe they get into the game of making their own Steam Deck-like device, and basically say, hey, we're making a Steam Deck-like device, but it's got a super powerful graphic card or something.
I mean, there is the Aya Neo that does that. I think there's other companies that do those type of portable PCs with thumbsticks and everything. And they're also, I think Logitech announced a cloud-based Steam Deck-like that they announced, which actually, which I think the problem everyone has with it is the price, essentially, for that, which is
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So with the Chinese competing devices like the Aya Neo, the 1X player devices, and the GPD devices, with the Aya Neo, they have the Aya Neo Air, which is sort of like their um, like a Steam Deck, but with weaker stats. I think the thing is priced about $300-ish, and it's just not worth it for that kind of a price, considering that for another $100 you just get the 64 gig Steam Deck, and
Yeah.
you get just better specs. So that's the problem on the low end, but on the high end with the devices like the GPD Win Max 2 and things like that, those are going for like anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200.
Yeah.
And with the parts that they have in them, they're barely better than the Steam Deck, and they're saddled with running Windows. And I mean, not that Steam OS is the end all be all, but running Windows and all the services that Windows needs to talk to the servers and stuff like that, that consumes PC cycles too. So um, the the nicer specs, they are a bit of a push, in my opinion, in the grand scheme of things. So you're paying almost double the price for a Steam for a device that runs Windows, might give you much more compatibility, but when it comes down to just when the rubber hits the road, the device might be just barely edging out the Steam Deck as far as like just compatibility and smoothness of play. And also, the problem with all these Chinese devices is the warranty is so hit and miss. I've read just occasional horror stories where someone will say, yeah, so this thing went wrong on my device. I reached out to them and they basically said, oh, you're not in China? Well, yeah, go pound sand. We're not doing a warranty claim for you, and we're definitely not going to pay for your shipping to have the thing shipped to China for us to fix it in our service center and then turn it back to you. So, whereas with the Steam Deck, you've got now Valve has authorized service centers in the US and Canada, I believe, so you can officially get your Steam Deck sent out to be repaired. Or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can just buy the parts directly from iFixit and just do it yourself.
Right. So, I mean, is that basically Steam Decks are being developed and made at a loss? Is that what's going on? Because how can the amount of money for a Steam Deck be so low, whereas the Aya Neos and the GDP Wins are so high? I mean, is Valve operating these at a loss and hopefully making the money back through purchases from the store, or why is the price so different?
My presumption is twofold. Part of it is, I assume, Valve has made one hell of a commitment on the parts purchase. They probably have stipulated in a contract of, hey, we will buy this much amount of stuff. If you can provide it, we will buy from you guaranteed, but you have to price it at this price. So maybe the price isn't at a great break-even point. Maybe they're still losing a little bit, but you have that sort of helping mitigate some of the losses. But also you have the fact that Valve gets a 30% cut of all Steam product sales on the Steam store. So that's likely helping them out too.
Right.
And I think that's really where just it comes to a balancing act for Valve, because of the fact that they probably have some sort of real good relationship with whichever chip fab manufacturer that they've chosen to go with to manufacture all the bits and bobs inside the Steam Deck and everything.
I mean, it is interesting to see that in Japan this is becoming, I guess, is this considered a big deal now, or is this still a small niche of people that are really into the Steam Deck, or has this gotten the zeitgeist to where a bunch of people are really interested in this device?
I want to say that it seems like there's a very high amount of interest, and the quote that I would like to point to would be from an interview that IGN had did with both Eric Peterson and Lawrence Yang of Valve regarding their time at the Tokyo Game Show. So IGN had posed the question of, what kind of discussions have you had with Japanese developers? I assume you're also talking with them while you're here in Japan. And the big money quote is in Eric Peterson's reply. which he says, "Oh, absolutely. We're constantly talking to developers all over the world, but we've also been spending time this week at Tokyo Game Show talking to Japanese developers and telling them about the device." Honestly, the reaction from Japanese publishers and developers has been immensely, immensely positive. They're excited about this, and we have been hearing from them from the beginning because we're sending them development units.
Okay.
These are the same publishers and developers that are making sure that their games run great on Steam Deck, and you can see many of these teams here today at the Tokyo Game Show.
Okay. I mean, in these type of interviews, okay, they are going to put the most positive spin to whatever question that they're given. And since it is IGN, they don't push back at all. So
right.
Take that with a grain of salt. But if the numbers are coming out that a lot more people are buying Steam Decks and using Steam in Japan than in most other countries now, excluding the US and whatever. I mean, that's huge. I mean, there is proof that it is going on. So that's great. I guess the question I would then have is, these are all like indie developers from Japan. What are we talking about when it comes to, let's say, Square Enix, Capcom?
Square Enix is a big one because one of their games that has been doing great on Steam Deck and selling pretty well is Power Wash Simulator. So that is one game that they actually publish, and that's been doing well. Sega has been making sure that their games run great on Steam Deck. Okay. So they're another big label company who's making sure their stuff runs. Capcom has made sure that Monster Hunter Rise, I believe, runs on Steam Deck very well. So yeah, you've got your big labels, but also you've got your small label games too, because I believe a lot of the Toho Project games are now, since they're on Steam and are very low on overhead requirements, they should run perfectly fine on Steam Deck.
Now, the Steam Deck, what kind of graphics card does it run? Is it equivalent to a 1650 or a 2080? What's the equivalent to that? I know you have it, so
that is hard to say.
Oh, okay.
Because there are some games that you can get away with running on high, and it doesn't stress the Steam Deck out. But then there's some games that aren't really optimized too well, and even on like medium settings, the Steam Deck will just kind of wheeze and go, "Oh God, please set it lower."
All right, so I'll end on this question for you. Maybe you have the answer, maybe you don't. The Steam Deck's popularity, okay, is this going to slow down the wanting of publishers to use, let's say, the tip-top end graphics cards to make those bleeding edge games, like those really those Crisis games that everyone says from a long time ago, can it run Crisis? When it came to like beefy graphics cards, is this slowing that market down to a point where it's becoming less and less necessary to have the bleeding edge graphics cards to run different games? I mean, there's always going to be some games that will do it, that will try and make the bleeding a bleeding edge. But is that becoming less and less of a case now? And will it become less of a case now that the Steam Deck, which is essentially a PC, a pocket PC, or not pocket PC, but a portable PC, with that big game popularity, will more studios decide maybe we don't need to go that far into the bleeding edge? Maybe we should still make it workable in those situations as well?
That's an interesting question, and it's going to be something that I would have to call it as we'll have to wait and see. Especially since the RDNA 2 architecture that the Steam Deck uses, I would say it's probably something like a low end 6000 RX 6000 series graphic card on the AMD side of things. So maybe like the equivalent of like a a GeForce 1050 or 1060.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely not bleeding edge powerful or anything like that. But with Nvidia sort of doing a hey, you'll buy our graphics cards because we've got the best technology. It'll be interesting to see whether PC developers go hard on the whole. Okay, well, we gotta go really freaking crazy on this ray tracing thing because everyone wants ray tracing now and all this other stuff. Or if they go, yeah, no one's buying these 4090 cards. That Nvidia's fucking smoking some real serious shit. Fuck this. We're not gonna go that crazy on ray tracing. A bunch of people have Steam Decks and low end PCs. We'll just optimize for the low end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be something that we'll ultimately have to wait and see how it pans out. I definitely can't make a definitive call on that.
Okay. I mean, my general opinion that if this system becomes really big, like so big that maybe, let's say it eats into the Switch's sales, even in the Switch 2 sales, to about 25%. Let's say that sales on that when the new Switch comes out, basically is undercut by the Steam Deck, depending on price, of course, and that just lowers the sales because all the people who want to play indie games on the go will want a Steam Deck. I can foresee a circumstance where developers say, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense to go for the bleeding edge because there are more people. And here's what this is a how do I put this? This is a prediction I'll have, okay? And it might be a prediction that is hasty, but I'll own it if I'm wrong, okay? I think in 5 years, if Valve continues to have success with the Steam Deck, it will be the most popular way to play PC games. So I think like us having our deck, our like I have a PC with a traditional a traditional, what do you call it, a case and everything. I have all my parts and everything. It was an expensive PC. I love having it, but I think that's going to be more and more rare going forward if the Steam Deck really starts to do very well. So if that starts to happen where the Steam Deck is basically the most popular of PCs to game on, I really see a lot of game companies turning around and going, well, then we don't have to spend that much money on getting really good graphics if all they're going to do is play on the Steam Deck. So that will pretty much level the playing field to a certain extent to where the graphics will have to match the consoles and the Steam Deck, and you won't have to worry about getting those beefy graphics cards right away because these game companies don't find it a good business sense to do that. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's only if the Steam Deck in like 5 years turns around and becomes the way to play PC games. But we'll have to see on that. I think that is going to happen, and I'll own it if I'm wrong. But that's my thought process on that.
Thing that I'll be curious on is what happens in the next console generation. And this was something that I saw echoed in a lot of internet discussions. This could really just turn the next generation of gaming in Japan sort of topsy-turvy. Mm-hmm. The Switch and Nintendo, Nintendo's always been sort of the mad dog ever since they did the whole, yeah, we're just going to do our own thing. We're not playing the spec race anymore. Yeah. So I think Nintendo's mostly in the clear for the most part, as long as they don't have another colossal Wii U style fuck up, which I think with their current leadership, I don't really foresee that happening for a good while.
Yeah.
The PS5 still has supply issues in Japan, and unfortunately, ever since the failure of the PS3 and Sony closing down the headquarters in Japan and relocating headquarters in the US, there hasn't really been much on the Japanese development side for PS5, and it's actually kind of weird because of the fact that just the PlayStation brand hasn't really done much much according to the Japanese labels. And then now you have Xbox, who's been doing a really concerted effort with just pushing hard for the Japanese market to kind of show, hey, we've got Game Pass, we're doing stuff that's that you can play on PC. If you don't have a lot of space for physical games, just sign up for Game Pass and you can just play through all the games you want now. And the availability for both the Series X and the Series S has been quite good in Japan. Ultimately, with the Steam Deck now getting a lot of traction in Japan, just my curiosity is just going to be more towards looking ahead for the next console generation in Japan, because I'm just really curious on how this is going to go, especially with Steam Deck getting a lot of love in Japan now, and then additionally a lot of excitement from just people finally getting on Steam in Japan. So definitely curious on how this is going to pan out.
So am I. Okay, so let us move on to the next story. Last week, the big story was that GTA 6 was leaked online. Videos were shown, code was apparently taken out. Just a huge deal last week. Towards the end of the week last week, it seems that the hacker that was responsible for this and hacks on Uber, Nvidia, and Microsoft was arrested in England around that time. It's a 17-year-old young man, so they don't have a name, of course, because he is a minor. And he was part of a hacking group called, what was the name of the group? I'm sorry, Lapsus? God, you guys gotta come up with better names. Lapsus with a $sign, you nerds. Jesus Christ. Get a marketer if you can, please. But, right. So, yeah, they basically were able to, they I guess found the person, which I guess him being located in the UAE was not right. So I'll own that one to a certain extent. But yeah, and it came out today on Tuesday that he has pled not guilty in, I believe it's a child's court, in a London youth court, for using a mobile phone for hacking purposes. And it looks like the counts were, he was charged with 2 counts of breach of bail conditions and 2 counts of computer misuse. Now, apparently, I guess he got arrested before for this. So that's where the 2 counts of bail conditions, or breach of bail conditions, came from. All right, Zero, what do you think of the developments involving the GTA breach and the arrest of the person who supposedly did this?
My first thought was more from my computer security background, which was, dude, if you're gonna hack some big corporations and start trying to basically hold the information for ransom, don't live or be in a country that will either prosecute the shit out of you or extradite the shit out of you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was just my first thought. I was just like, dude, you got way too cocky and way too greedy, mm-hmm. and you were way too dumb to stay in the UK. You should have just gotten your ass out of the UK and been like, yep, I'm in the UAE for real, guys. So bidding for this information starts at several $100,000 or something.
Yeah, but in all fairness, okay, yeah, what this guy did was dumb, but he is a kid. And I know people be like, oh, he's 17. No, he's a kid. Okay? What he did was wrong. And he's going to get punished for it, and he should. But this is the stupidity of youth, I think. And clearly this guy is talented, because if he's able to do it at this young of an age, imagine what he can do later on down the road. So, yeah, people are saying, oh, his life's ruined. It's over. He's done. Like, he just ruined his... No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. He's going to get off lightly on this. He's going to basically... I don't know if there's probation in England, or I don't think he's going to jail. I think he's going to get a severe probationary type of offense. Like, yeah, again, England in law, I have no idea. But I'm basing it what I know in the U.S. Like, unless you do something really messed up as a youth, like 16, 15, 17 years old, like murder or sexual assault, they generally give you either juvenile detention or probation. And I think that's what's going to end up happening, is that he's going to get some kind of probationary kind of thing. And then once he goes to college and everything, these tech companies are going to want to hire this guy as a white hat hacker or someone who can work defense and pay good money for him. Because if he was able to do this at 17, you know that he's going to be able to do much more later on down the road. I mean, you're the one that has the background in this. What do you think?
If he can keep his head squeaky clean and just not repeat offend that he gets himself caught, then yeah, he probably has a bright future ahead in the world of computer security. But the allure of crime is often very, very hard to resist. As cynical as I may sound saying that.
No, you're absolutely right. People who tend to do crime tend to think a certain way and act a certain way, and it's hard to combat that. But it does happen. Like, all you need to show the person is you can do a lot with what you're doing by being in the defense of, let's say, these corporations that you are attacking. Because if you go to a corporation as someone who will defend their service, goes, oh yeah, by the way, remember the time when people hacked Rockstar Games and leaked GTA 6? That was me. Here's my proof. And all of a sudden you have these guys, oh, we need to pay 6 or 7 figures to get this guy, because if he can do this, he can probably defend our servers a lot better. He knows what to look for. So, yeah, if he keeps his head squeaky clean, which I'm gonna hope that he does. I think he will, because I think after this, I think he realized that, because when he posted everything, didn't he say he was surprised at how much heat he was getting? Like, if that's the case, then I don't think he was aware of what he was. Maybe he was aware of what he was doing, but I don't think he was specifically aware of what this could mean for him when he did this. I thought, to me, it sounded like a goofy, stupid kid who was like, wouldn't it be funny if I found out what GTA 6 was like? And then he did, and he posted, I'm like, oh God, why is everyone mad at me? Like, what? Oh my God, what's going on? Why is everyone going after me? Like, I think he was just in over his head on this. So
yeah, and that's a fair assumption too. But at the same time, just it's one of those things of, yeah, if you're gonna start doing things that are potentially criminal, then yeah, you need to learn really how to harden yourself up. Yeah, that's just kind of hacking 101.
That is true. I think my hope is that this will be the lesson for him to not do that anymore and start going for those degrees that can make him to be a security analyst of sorts, so he can make a good living doing this. Like, remember, I don't know if you remember this. There was a person who did a lot of fraud when he was very young called Frank Abagnale. Do you remember the name of this guy?
Yeah.
Okay. His story was made into the movie Catch Me If You Can. And basically, he defrauded people through using bad checks off of millions of dollars. And what he would do is he'd take the money and he would fly all over the place and have different types of aliases and identities until he finally got caught and went to jail. And then after that, he turned into, I think, an FBI not an informant, but an analyst who was able to detect, like, who was using bad checks and what he was doing. So, like, he could easily pigeonhole that into a career like that if he's smart. But he has to be smart. He has to stop this. So hopefully he's able to at this point. But yeah, not really like a business story, but an interesting story involving the hack. But I gotta be honest, if I were Take-Two, after all the dust is settled, I would contact this kid privately and go, hey, you keep your nose clean, we'll hire you for a defense analyst or for like a security analyst, because what you did was, he had to have done something that was exceptional in order to access all of that, because we don't know what he did specifically yet, but he had to have done something that no one noticed that got into this. Either that or Take-Two's security software is utter shit. But if he was able to hack through that and it was decent, the guy has a career. I mean, if he stays clean, of course. Moving on to the next story, going up on a nice clip here. So Overwatch 2 is the story that keeps on giving for us, Zero. If you don't know, if you only listen to us on our podcast, if you do, thank you very much. We also post our segments on YouTube. So if you want to just listen to a specific segment on YouTube, you can. That's, of course, at Capital Games. Well, what we've started noticing is all our views have been on Overwatch 2 for some strange reason. And we know why, because Overwatch 2, even though it is a popular franchise, has not been doing very well in the limelight as of recently. And I think this is going to make things a lot worse for Overwatch 2 to come out. It was announced today through an article through VGC that it will take 100 matches you have to play at 100 matches in order to unlock all the Overwatch characters. So essentially, you get the original Overwatch characters from when it first came out, but then in order to unlock, let's say, Sombra or Doomfist, or I don't know the rest of them, Wrecking Ball, the hamster in the ball is the one that I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. But in order to unlock all the ones that you are aware of now, it would take at least 100 matches to unlock them. Zero, what do you think of the tactics they're using on their free-to-play version of Overwatch?
Oof, just 100 matches is a lot to grind.
Right.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because there's really no way to sugarcoat it. From a business sense, I get the reason why, because you get the players on that treadmill of, hey man, you've just got 40 more matches, and you've got the rest of the roster unlocked for the new characters and everything.
Yeah,
it's a great way to kind of get people interested. I totally get it, but at the same time, it's also kind of shitty too, because of course, just you're forcing the players to suffer through this and go, yeah, you want those new characters? Well, you're gonna have to put your ass into it and just play out these matches, win or lose, and as long as everything goes smoothly for your 100 matches, then you'll be quickly on your track to unlock these characters.
Yeah, like I don't get this really. If you came from Overwatch and going to Overwatch 2, already you're pissed, because not only are you not allowed to play Overwatch anymore when this comes out, because they are shutting down Overwatch 1 when Overwatch 2 is released. Let's say your main is Doomfist. Now you can't play him until you play 100 matches? That's terrible. Like that's really not a good thing. Now, unless these matches are a lot shorter than what they are on Overwatch 1, which may be a possibility because it's now a 5v5 and not a 6v6. But even then, you're then saying, oh, but my main was Doomfist, and now I can't play him until I do 30 matches or 40 matches with somebody else. I mean, that sucks. That's terrible. And have they talked about if these guys will be available for purchase immediately, or are they have to be unlocked through grinding?
That's the interesting part. I haven't really seen any sort of official statement on how this is going to work, but yeah, just the thought of maybe they have some unlock vouchers for you in the beginning saying, hey, you can unlock a couple characters or whatever, but the rest you're going to have to sit and grind them out. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's really been no official statement by Blizzard, and Blizzard, as much as I hate to concede and say this, they're playing this smart by keeping this to the chest to minimize any potential anger. But they'll have to say something soon, because technically the game the game goes live on October 4th.
Right, and they're saying this is part of a first time user experience. So in order to actually use, let's say, competitive mode or in-game chat, they're locked until you grind a certain amount of games. If this is a first time user, yeah. Well, I hate using chat, so I'm not. I don't care personally, but I understand people find that annoying. But my thing would be this, okay? Let's say you have 1,000 games in Overwatch 1. Why can't those stats carry over to 2 and go, oh, you know how to play this game. Here's all the characters. Here's everything. Boom, go. Like, if you're requiring people who've been playing this game for a long time to go through the first-time user experience in order to do this, that's not a good move at all. Because then you're telling your loyal base that, yeah, you're... Not that you're on the level of everyone else, which that is kind of what they're saying, but also you're going to have to do the same thing that someone who's brand new to the game has to do. We don't care that you've had 1,000, 2,000 hours in this game. I don't care if you're a pro player. You have to do the same thing everyone else does. And if I were a player, I played a lot of Overwatch when it first came out. So I guess that includes me to a certain extent. If I was someone who kept playing it and was dedicated to the game, that pissed me off. Like, to not be able to play, let's say, a main that I have, like Bridget. Like, let's say Bridget is my support main. Like, now I can't use her until I unlock her. That sucks. That's terrible. The original characters should just be unlocked, in my opinion. Just unlock them, because the only way that anyone will learn how to play the game is if they find a character they like and use it. That's the only way. And for them to lock certain characters down in order for them to play the other characters that maybe they don't like is not a good move, design-wise either. Because what if they say, oh, well, I guess McCree is okay, but I don't really like him, and I think Winston sucks, and I think all these characters kind of suck, so I'm going to stop playing. You don't know that if they got, let's say... I don't know these characters. Let's say they got one of the unlockable characters, and that turned out to be the character they liked. You're now risking where they won't be able to access that character until they play a number of matches of playing with characters that they clearly don't like. I think that's a terrible decision to do, especially for people who've been playing the game for a long time. If they're new, I'm kind of okay with it, but I would definitely limit the competitive mode, like 50 matches until then you can unlock competitive mode. Fine, I'm cool with that. Like, that's cool. But characters, bad move in my opinion.
It's actually honestly kind of weird because Splatoon 2, or excuse me, Splatoon 3 actually learned something for once, because if you apparently have played Splatoon 2, then the game will actually use your save data and basically say, oh, it looks like you've played quite a bit of Splatoon, so we're going to give you a bunch of levels because of your previous play experience, and as a bonus, we'll also give you a bunch of XP so you can put towards like weapons and stuff, and then you also get a bunch of gold vouchers, which these vouchers will allow you to unlock advanced later level weapons immediately. And it just seems like they learned they took what Splatoon 2 was doing, and they were just like, hey, yeah, just forcing the players to slave it out and just play through this new player experience. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's just like, no, that's a terrible idea. And that's why the developers behind Splatoon 3 were just like, yeah, let's not reward or let's not punish players who have been longtime Splatoon fans with basically saying, oh, you have to start back over from ground zero.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like to me.
Right. And that's what I hate about sports games. Like, if you have played like the previous game, you don't get any bonus from the next game at all. Like, I play MLB The Show, and every year I have to start over and collect all the cards from the game in order to get the better players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't offer you, let's say, more packs for completing your collection from last year, or they don't offer you like different things because you played the game and you played it for X amount of time and did X amount of things from the next game. They don't offer anything to you. They don't really reward you for being loyal. They just say, "Oh, new game, start it over, bitch." And I'm like, "Oh, great, thanks." And that's essentially what Overwatch 2 is doing right now. It's like, "Oh well, it's a new game, so yep, start all over, bye," and that's it. I mean, they still allow you to use all the skins, which is good because there are people who spent a lot of money getting those stupid loot boxes in order to get those skins. But yeah, this is not a good look. This is like more and more that I'm learning about the free-to-play version of this game, the more and more I'm starting to realize that I don't think they know what they're doing to a certain extent and what makes their base happy. So it's going to be good.
I was going to say, for the sake of journalistic integrity, I'll probably investigate the game when it goes free to play, just for the sake of. But
same here.
Yeah, I just foresee myself having a miserable time, especially with this whole, "Oh, you want to unlock everything? Well, you're gonna have to grind it out." I'm just not looking forward to that, and I definitely foresee myself dropping the game rather quickly as a result. Unfortunately,
I don't know really. I mean, if the game is as long per match as it was the first game, you're looking at hundreds of hours in order to get every character. Maybe the matches are shorter because it's a 5v5. Maybe. So I don't entirely know. But if it's the same as it was in the previous Overwatch, yeah, this is going to be kind of a grind. And they better have a lot for you to do in order to, gain more stuff and to do more stuff except for playing matches. Because if all it is, okay, get into another match. Okay, get into another match. Okay, get into another match. Like, at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop. Like, if that's all you're offering and I have to just grind and grind and grind, forget it. I'll be like you. I'll be done, like, fairly quickly.
Yeah, I will say this, though. If they don't do what Multiversus just did on their latest patch, which for anyone who doesn't know, the new Multiversus version 1.03 patch, they are scaling back the rewards leading up to level 15 because apparently they've been unhappy with how fast people have been burning levels through leveling up a character to unlock their perks. So yeah, now the grind to level 15 will take more experience and will give you less stuff.
Ugh.
So yeah, I mean, if Blizzard doesn't have much of a plan on how to meter the rewards to keep players on that a wonderful grind treadmill that they seem to like, then yeah, nothing good will come from Overwatch 2.
God, that's terrible. Okay, I understand that you want to keep people invested in the game as long as possible, but to then make the grind grindier without some kind of reward base set into it is a terrible move. Honestly, I would have kept it the way it is, but then my opinion is that they are going to update those specific tiers for those characters to add more stuff into it so you can grind more. Then make the next stage of that grindier. Do that. Like, let's say I think it's at level 15, you get everything for each character. Then let's say if they bump it up to 25 for like the next set, okay? Then make from 16 to 25 grindier. Do that. Don't then say, okay, well, we're gonna have to take away stuff from you in order to make you play more. That's shitty. That's a terrible experience. Because then you're now then the people who no life the game are still gonna get rewarded, and the ones that don't have as much time but are still enjoying their game are getting punished. That's terrible. That's a bad idea.
That was kind of my first thought with just seeing the news post that you had shared with me before the show about how it'll take 100 matches to unlock all the characters. I was just like, well, they better have a very engaging reward track,
yes.
Or else or else it's going to be like multiverses, and you're going to have more players drop because they're just going to look at the grind and go, "Wow, that's not fun. I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah. You better have a sexy Tracer skin then. Yeah, that will never happen. But anyway, yeah, they've got to do something in order to offset the grind to make it worth it. Because if, yeah, I don't really see how this is a good thing, to be completely honest. For the user, I would say. For the developer, oh hell yeah, like it means more engagement on their game. But I don't see how a user would actually get a lot from this. So, yeah, this is a bad move all around. Okay, we will move on to the next. I would say after the PS1, Atlas became a darling for RPG fans, specifically, especially with the Shin Megami Tensei series. But it wasn't until around the end of the PS2 cycle when they became a JRPG mainstay with Persona. But as that's been going on, their other titles, like from the Shin Megami Tensei brand, has been slowly getting more and more popular. Leading up to Shin Megami Tensei 5 that was released a couple of years ago. Great game, by the way, if you haven't played it. And it's the right amount of tough and rewarding. I actually really like that game. Well, what I didn't know until today, when we were going through all this, is that they had a PC MMO a long time ago. And apparently, from what you were telling me before the show, is that this didn't do very well. And they ended up shutting it down shortly after it was released. I don't know what the timetable was when they shut it down. Well, apparently there was a fan group that was taking the code and rebuilding it and trying to resurrect it for people to play in order to get to experience the rich lore of Shin Megami Tensei. Well,
not just one group, but 3.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it's an MMO, so I guess that makes sense. Well, Atlas put the kibosh on that because they essentially have sued these groups who are trying to resurrect the MMO in order to allow people to play it and to experience the game.
Well, there's a little bit more nuance. So 2 of the groups have been sued. Mm-hmm. One of the groups, in fear of seeing these other groups getting sued, basically said, "Okay, shit, we gotta shut ours down before we get sued."
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. Smart. This isn't new. Game companies, when they shut down games and they shut down services and stuff like that, some people who, like, I think City of Heroes was an example of this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember City of Heroes for some reason. Groups of people want to bring the game back to re-experience the game in order to allow others to play it, and of course the company that owns those games sue them into oblivion and tell them to stop, or give them a cease and desist letter and tell them to stop. Nintendo does this a lot with I think A2MR or AM2R that was released a while ago. They did that as well with these games. So this is nothing new in regards to the business of video games. Zero, what did you think when you heard about this project and Atlas shutting it down?
So it was more funny because I actually went through the very, very, very long legal filing that was filed in the District of New York, I believe.
Oh.
And they have screenshots of all the violations that 2 of these groups were guilty of. So essentially, both groups were charging for premium memberships and stuff like that. So
that's not good.
Yeah. Which, if you're trying to keep your nose clean and keep prying eyes away from your project, you don't sit there and go, "Oh yeah, you can totally get bonus benefits if you pay the extra for our super magical premium membership, where you get like X amount of things dropped into your mailbox or whatever." I don't know the specifics of whatever these groups are offering as far as premium benefits, but it was just one of those things. I was just like, yeah, just Fan Project 101. If you're going to take donations, you need to be explicitly clear that you are not making money off of the donations, that you are just simply just immediately dumping them into server costs. You're not basically kind of taking a little bit on the side to kind of pad your pockets or anything.
But not even that. Like, you can't make money, period, on these things. Like, you essentially have to treat it as a public domain thing. Basically, you are, or not even I forget the terminology, but
Abandonware.
Kind of. There's a specific term where you're doing something like this, but you are eating the cost to have this done, and you intend to make zero money out of this. There is zero business involved in this. But unfortunately, even if it's to say, oh, we're just using this to keep the servers up, that's part of the business. So at that point, you essentially have just said, well, in order to do this, I have to have a business plan in order to keep this running. Thus, I need money. Thus, it's a business plan, and thus, it's illegal to do. So, and even that is still squirrely because you're using somebody else's property and somebody else's assets to make your game. And yeah, I get that I get gamers specifically get angry about this because, well, then we have no way of experiencing this game at all, and it's unfair. I agree. But you know who doesn't agree? The people who made the game. And if the people who made the game are saying, we don't care, this is our property, and if we want to release it to you, that's our decision, and if we don't, that's our decision, you can't do that, goodbye. They have no other choice, they have no other choice to do that. Because if they let one group do it for no money and everything, what's going to stop other groups from doing it as well? And them being unable to sue because they allowed the separate group to do it. Like, I get the frustration on this. I really do. But if you own a business and you create things and you sell things in order to get money from it, okay? You have to protect your copyrights. You have to protect your trademarks. You must do it. Because if at any point you say, it's okay if this person does it, but it's not okay when this person does it, then the person that you're not okay with can turn around and says, well, why didn't you sue this person then? You're not protecting your copyright, so why am I getting punished? And a judge can say, he's absolutely right. You can't do that. Like, if you haven't sued this person, you can't sue this person if you care about your copyright that much. So I get the frustration that people have with this. But you have to also understand, if you are making money, if someone's making money off of their work, like let's say with music specifically as well, if we were to use someone's music as as a theme song, and they said, absolutely not, you cannot do it, I will not allow you to do that, that's wrong, it's my song, I don't want you to use it, he's perfectly within his rights to say, no, I don't want you to use it. If we then go ahead and say, well, fuck you, we want to do it because the song rocks, and we wanted to put it on there, he's free to sue us. He's free to say, well, that's my property. You can't do that. And people would agree.
And that gets into the second part of what made the legal documents so interesting. Mm-hmm. So in the second exhibit of evidence for this court summons for two of the groups to basically show up or and be sued to oblivion. Mm-hmm. One of the groups decided to copy the official Shin Megami Tensei Imagine site one for one, and then in the copyright section add his group's name in the copyright and also his group's logo. So it basically looked one for one like the official Shin Megami Tensei Imagine site. And he decided to take it that far. I was just like, dude, you done fucked up, man.
Oh my God.
Just, you shouldn't have done that because that makes it like literally slam dunk zone for Atlas to basically sue the shit out of you and go, yeah, you fucked up, man.
Yeah. How long has this project been going on for?
I think a couple years. I'm not exactly sure, okay. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, it was one of those things. That was my first thought. I was like, dude, you done fucked up.
Oh my God.
You don't make any sort of illusions that you look like the official site. No, that is just that is just a one-way ticket to just being sued into a smoking crater.
Yeah, definitely. And for something like Sega Sammy, which is $1 billion company, I mean, that's easy. Like, that is essentially all you need at that point. But God, how stupid! Good God.
Yeah,
That is so dumb.
If anyone's fascinated to it, we can probably link to the legal document in the show notes or something.
Okay.
But yeah, it was an eye opener when I was reading the legal documentation from the New York District Courts. I was just like, ooh, wow, holy shit! Both of these groups were mega dumb for trying to ask for just a lot more money than just barely just running operation costs and stuff like that. Essentially, the third group, which was running what they called Shin Megami Tensei Reimagine, it spooked the hell out of them. They were just like, yeah, so we saw the court summons for those two other groups. It has literally spooked the shit out of us that we are effective immediately. We are shutting down Shin Megami Tensei Reimagine in order to protect ourselves from being sued into a smoking crater.
Yeah.
Was what it boiled down to.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, I get the mentality that you want to preserve this stuff. I really do, and I agree. I would want to preserve all this stuff as much as humanly possible, if I can, like if I could. I get it, because there are also movies that are really hard to find now because certain companies will refuse to release it. Dogma from Kevin Smith is an example of that. That hasn't seen a release since a standard Blu-ray from like 2011, and it's not even on streaming anymore because Harvey Weinstein owns the movie and he refuses to let it loose. Essentially, is what's going on with that. So I agree. I agree with the sentiment that you want to make these things available to everyone, but that's up to the copyright holder. It just is. Like, and I hate to belie this point, but you don't technically own any of the things that you buy. You have a license to play them. Sure, you can pop in your PS2 disc and play Persona 3, and it still works, fine. But that doesn't mean you get to copy it and put it on the internet. Like, technically that's not, well, is it legal? Not really. I mean, you can copy it and put it on your computer as a backup, but you technically can't put it out on the internet. Yeah, that's all squirrely. But anyway, like, that's what I don't get about all these fan not the fan translations, but these fan repro projects that all of a sudden get sued and they're like, why are you doing this? Guys, it's a business. I mean, like, especially if you're charging money to get into it. Like, you've just turned it into a business opportunity. And what I think people also don't understand is when these games get made, I mean, there are royalties involved. So if a game is being re-released, like, for example, GoldenEye. Like, GoldenEye was in legal limbo because they just couldn't get the right business numbers involved for it to get re-released. That's what took it so long to get re-released at this point, because you have to give a portion to Rare, which is now Microsoft. You have to give a portion to Nintendo. You have to give a proportion to Eon Productions. Like, everyone gets a piece of the pie. And if those companies start looking at it and go, wait a minute, you're taking that away from us? Fuck you, I'm suing. They have every right, and they should. That's if you own something. Let's say me and Zero, okay? Let's say this podcast gets huge, okay? And someone decided to take our episodes, remaster them, put them onto a feed, and charge people $5 for our remastered episodes. You're damn fucking right we would sue you. I mean, that would be absolutely asinine. To be like, oh, we just love your show. And I'm like, no, dude. You're taking our work and you're making money off of work that we're not getting. Of course we're suing you. That if you did work and you worked hard for it to make money off of it, and then someone takes it away from you and tries to make money off of your work, you'd want to sue them. And you would have every right to. That's the basis of ownership, and that's the basis of business, basically. You do the work, you do the time, you reap the benefits. And that is it. Like, I feel bad to a certain extent because it would have been cool, I guess, for this to get off the ground. But the minute they made it into a business is when I think Sega stepped in and said, nope. But even then, I see companies, even when it's free, saying, no, we don't want you to do that. And it's within their rights, too, unfortunately.
I think really just the one group that just decided to just copy the official Shin Megami Tensei Imagine site one for one, and then basically remake it in their own image, and then have the gall to add their copyright and their image in the copyright holders section. That was just like, dude, you fucked up.
God,
You've now opened yourself real wide to be sued, and that's exactly what happened.
That's fucking copyright fraud, dude. What were you doing?
Yeah, it was just one of those things that just sort of baffled me. I was just like, do you just not see how much of a bad decision this was? And really, this would be like a great spot for like a soundboard to play the Morgan Freeman line of, it was at this moment he fucked up.
God, that's a great line.
Yeah, that was my exact thought. I was just like, man, this would be like the exact moment to like play that from a soundboard.
But yeah, like, I get a lot of you are like, they should just make it available for everyone anyway. And in a perfect world, sure. I mean, that would be nice. But then I also thought about this as well. If that's what you expect gaming publishers to do, what's going to stop people from saying, okay, we'll wait until it's dead and then they'll just release it for free? Like, I agree that gaming should be preserved a lot better than it is, but on the other hand, gaming is an expensive business, and telling somebody to say, oh well, we'll just give this out for free, you're asking a hell of a lot. Like, you really are asking a hell of a lot to do that. Like, I thought it was shocking when was it Romero who released the original code for Doom for 20 years later? Like, I was surprised he did that.
Yeah.
But I guess he realized, I'm not going to make any more money off this, so I might as well. Like, maybe that's why he did it. But, like, I was shocked by that, too. Like, I don't know. Like, it does cost money to keep these servers up. I do recognize that. And if it has to be shut down, it has to be shut down, unfortunately. Like, I would have loved to play The Matrix Online again, but you can't. And I'm not willing to fork over money to make a new server for the game. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's done. It's over. Move on. If the companies that made it have moved on, essentially, to me, it's time for you to move on now.
It's just one of those things that, again, I just thought, when I just saw some of the evidence that was posted, I was just like, ooh, yeah, just bad move on your part, dude, to use the official site artwork and everything just so brazenly like that. It was just, that was my first thought. It was just like, yo, that is a bad move.
That was so stupid. If you hadn't told me that, I would have just I always just looked at this as go, oh, it's one of the standard Nintendo, like, oh, you're remaking one of our games, we don't allow that, please stop. I thought that's what it was, but if it's that, oh Lord, that's bad. That's terrible.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next story. Zero. The gaming industry and the gaming press and everything involving games has really changed, I would say, in the past 15 years after the advent of YouTube. Because now I think the most respected voices and the ones that people go to the most when it comes to video game opinions is YouTube. They go to specific YouTubers that talk about specific games, and they rely less and less on sites like IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, Polygon, The Gamer, etc. Like, they rely on those much less now for reviews. So when it was announced this week that Video Game Donkey, or he calls himself Donkey, is forming a new publishing studio called Big Mode, this turned a lot of heads and got a lot of people's chins waggling. Some were positive, some were very negative about this. And basically, he basically says that he's sick and tired of sitting on the sidelines when it comes to gaming and stuff like this. So he wants to put his hat in and get into the publishing business. What are your thoughts about Donkey going into the publishing business with Big Mode?
Personally, I don't like him as a personality because sometimes he gets a little bit full of himself.
Okay.
The best way I can compare it, make a comparison is, he would be like Stephanie Sterling if Stephanie Sterling turned up the ego to like 11. One of the things that he mentioned on his whole "I'm making a video game publishing company" is just one of his points was, I have a proven track record of keeping track of games that have been very successful and stuff like that. And when you look at his track record, it's just like, these are all games that everyone else talked about, dude. You're not the end all be all that has suddenly discovered like these games magically. Just don't be so damn full of yourself.
Okay. Now, is that the issue you're having with him making a publishing studio? That you think he's just a big-headed person who is too full of himself to realize that maybe he doesn't have the talent? Like, go ahead.
I think it's more just the fact that I think his ego is a little bit inflated, thinking that he can that he has a track record of basically finding indie games that are 100% hits, and that's supposedly what he's marketing with his publishing company, and that just sounds like just marketing huff and puff. Just nobody has a 100% track record. That's just the nature of business. You will have some failures,
right.
And for him to kind of huff and puff and say, "Hey, I'll only be looking for the best of the best indies," it's just like, okay, well, sometimes some games look like that they're best of the best, but sometimes things happen. Maybe they have a change of heart in how they want to develop their game, and then they choose to take it in a direction that is not fun anymore.
Right.
And maybe there's just something happens where maybe they have a family emergency. They're just like, I just can't finish this game. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna have to just unplug development from this and just fucking call it.
Right.
And those could be duds.
Right. To be honest, being braggadocious is a business thing. Like, if you aren't full of yourself to a certain extent and think that you can change the world, you oftentimes will fail at business. So he has the mentality of someone who I think if he wants to run a business, that he will put the time in and he thinks he can do it. He's really the type of person that people who are in business are attracted to. That thinks that, I can definitely do this. I will put the money in. I will do it. And I'll show everyone that I'm right. Like, that's attractive to business people to a certain extent. And that may be attractive to people who are developers who are looking for their games to be published. So let me ask you this then. If it was Stephanie Sterling who made this announcement, would you have an issue with it?
Probably not, because Stephanie Sterling has a bit of modesty when it comes to just talking stuff up. I mean, they will talk about just how bad a bad game is. Just that's just one thing that I've always known them for. Just if a game is legit bad, they will just say, "Yo, this game stinks." Just behold the spectacular stink of this game.
And Donkey doesn't do that?
Donkey just has usually had a track record of just being really hyped out about something, and just it's been the games that he's usually been hyped up about have been things that other YouTubers have talked about. And again, it's nothing against him, just as said, I just feel that he's kind of overstating his importance, in my opinion.
I am of the mentality that I don't care at this point if this person is a personality that people like or don't like, or is somebody who's full of himself or is not. Like, that doesn't matter to me so much. If this means a game developer is going to get published and going to get the marketing that he or she needs to succeed by going through Donkey's label, I'm all for it. Like, whatever. You can hate Donkey all you want, and I don't honestly don't care at this point. Like, if you hate Donkey, I guess you don't like him very much. If you hate Donkey and just how he does his videos and his opinions and everything, I don't care. I don't care about his opinion, really. I don't think he's that great. But if he's willing to put his money where his mouth is and market and help develop these and give money to these developers to make their games, I'm all for it. I mean, that's more voices. That's more people that are going to get a chance to develop their games. I don't see the issue with that. I mean, if the only issue anyone has is, well, I don't like Donkey. Well, you don't like Bobby Kotick either, but he puts money into games. You don't like Dennis Dyack. He did the same thing. You don't like Todd Howard. He did the same thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like the person. If he's putting the money down to do it, who cares at this point? Like, what?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for me, it's more. He can talk a big game, but definitely, I want to see what happens when the rubber hits the road.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with that. Like, I'm expecting this to be a very tough transition. Like, when you do anything new, anything business-wise, like us, for example, Zero, like, when we started this, I mean, when we started this, we weren't getting much. We're not getting a lot now, but we're getting better. But this was tough. This was something that we had to iron some kinks out. We had to do different things. We had to go a different direction, certain aspects. You do have to learn on the fly when doing something new. That's just how it is. So am I expecting Donkey to just go do well right off the bat? No, I'm not. But am I going to be the one that's going to be like, oh, you're failing, huh? No. Because if it means more options for indie developers to get more, to get their games out there, I'm all for it. I don't care. Like, a good game's a good game, okay? If a game is great, I don't give a shit who published it. Like, even if it's EA, like, even if EA published a great game, like it takes two. At the end of the game, at the end of the day, everyone loved that game. Did they care that EA published it? No, it was a good game. They just bought it. Who fucking cares? Like, I don't get that. You can hate the guy. That's fine. Like, I don't care on that aspect. But if you're giving more options to these developers who don't have to go to EA, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Sony, but can still remain independent to a certain extent, who cares? Like, who really cares at this point? And if he's successful and makes your favorite game, are you really going to hate the fact that he helped publish that game? No, you're not going to care. So, my opinion on this entire thing basically is good luck. Good luck. If you can do it, I wish you good luck. That's it. And if you can't do it, well, he learned his lesson. He'll sell his business. Someone else will take it over, or we'll shut it down. Or whatever. Fine. But all I can say is good luck to you. That's it. I'm really surprised that you were kind of down on this, to be absolutely honest. Like, I guess because you don't like Donkey, I guess is the issue. Because, like I've seen a few of his videos, and they're okay, but they're not very thought-provoking. There are a lot of videos that I've watched of his where, like, yeah, you're funny, but you're not saying anything new here. So
yeah.
But hey, if he wants to put his money where his mouth is and try and get these indie developers to get more exposure, and if he really puts in the money to do this, good on him on this. That's how I think. Now, if it turns out that he screwed developers over, then shit on him forever. Then fine, he deserves this. But for right now, my opinion is basically, he wants to do it. Good luck. Why would you hate more publishers out there that will bring in more games that deserves more attention? I don't get that.
Yep. So yeah, overall, it's definitely more. While I don't really care for him, I do wish him the best of luck and hope that he really is down to put his money where his mouth is, because
yeah,
it's publishing's a tough business.
Yeah,
it's a cutthroat world, and there's a lot of luck involved in it too, because of course, just every once in a while you find a golden gem, and then that golden gem is kind of what rockets you off into stardom and everything.
Right.
But sometimes things don't work out. What you think is a gem ends up being a massive turd, and it may not have been a situation you could see coming. So best of luck to him. It's going to be a tough road, but that's really all I can really think of, to be honest.
I mean, marketing there is a formula to marketing to a certain extent, but you do have to learn when to use certain styles of marketing in order for it to work very well. Like, if you need a grassroots marketing campaign, I mean, that's possible. If you needed a campaign that is mostly social media driven, okay. I mean, you have to know exactly what to do at that certain extent. So if he's going to do that, he better have somebody who can do it, or he better be damn well good at it too. So we'll see. I'm going to wish him good luck, and hopefully he will be able to go ahead and be successful in that, because that just means more options for developers. But am I rooting for him? Nah. Do I think he'll fail? Yeah, I kind of think he will. But I'm wishing he won't, because more options is always a good thing. So, yeah. Zero, a couple of months, what was it, like 6 months ago? Maybe not even that long. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands came out to a fairly good reception, I would say.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I know you played a little bit of it and liked what you played. But what I didn't realize, and what was announced today, not today, but this past week, was that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands greatly exceeded expectations for Gearbox. So much so that they are now calling it a new franchise for the company. So they're going to grow their Borderlands business, apparently, to add another Tiny Tina's Wonderlands in this for their studio. Zero, what do you think about the sales exceeding expectations for Wonderlands, and that this may become a new franchise for them?
Actually, kind of a bit of a curiosity, because for me, just I was just kind of kind of curious that they went into the whole, okay, well, we're just going to do more Tiny Tina stuff, but and I figured, okay, just probably another side game until they get over to the next Borderlands game, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was kind of all I thought about it. And it was just really, really interesting to see them go the angle of, actually, we're gonna turn Tiny Tina into a whole franchise. And to a sense, it also makes sense too, because in my opinion, the story and the humor in Borderlands peaked at Borderlands 2. Pre-sequel was really weak as far as things go. Borderlands 3 sort of righted the ship, but it still really wasn't even close to touching Borderlands 2. So there was that, but yeah, just that's kind of my take on the whole thing. But yeah, really interested to see what they do with regards to taking Tiny Tina into making its own franchise and everything.
I beat Borderlands 1 3 times with 3 different characters. I loved Borderlands 1. I only got halfway through 2. Even though I recognized it was a better game to a certain extent, I just had more fun with 1. I agree with pre-sequel. It kind of sucked. I didn't like the gameplay that much, and the story stunk. I think the worst story was 3. Like, I hated the characters. I couldn't stand the story. I was bored throughout it until I got to shoot stuff. And then I was like, fine. Like, the gameplay was very good, so I sat through it and just enjoyed the gameplay and just couldn't stand the story. And the one thing about Borderlands I could not stand was Tiny Tina. I can't stand that character, and I am shocked to a certain extent that there's so many people who like this character. Maybe that's not what this is. This might be, basically, this is the new Borderlands, and it was different enough to where people wanted to attach themselves to it, and that's fine. I haven't played Wonderlands yet, so I don't have an opinion here or there, but the reason why is because I just don't like Tiny Tina. The fact that this is now becoming a new franchise is puzzling to me to a certain extent. Like a part of me wants Gearbox to just, I don't know, do different things now. I mean, I think they should have made Borderlands into like a Destiny style game at this point. Like that should have been like Borderlands 3 should have been what Destiny is right now. In my opinion, because it would have fit perfectly in that milieu. It would have to have the loot based systems with the gunplay, and to have it as a maybe not free to play, but as a live service type game where you can constantly update the game with new weapons, new stuff to do, new expansions, new stuff, like constantly. Borderlands would have been perfect for that. But they didn't do that, and I think they've gotten really lucky with sales with this in this aspect, especially with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, because this is still. Well, I haven't played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but from what I've seen, it's kind of the same game to a certain extent. But the way the game plays has been better, but the overall mechanics and the gameplay itself hasn't changed, and I think that's what Borderlands really needs, is a complete redo of what they're doing. And they're not going to do it because it's successful. I know that. But if they were to really change things up and make it exciting, that would be great. But then on the other hand, if Gearbox is big enough, make a new franchise. Make a new game. Like, you have now a series that will support and sustain you if you try something different. Do a new IP. Again, I haven't played Wonderlands, and it might blow me away, but I just don't. If they become the Borderlands studio, I mean, what's gonna stop them when Borderlands finally runs out of steam? Is my question.
Yeah, and that's a completely fair question too. It definitely will be interesting to see what happens if they decide to go in this route. But yeah, I'm with you too. Just I'm definitely surprised that they haven't gone this live service angle with Borderlands in general, because it seems like it would lend itself very well to being a live service game.
Right. No, I agree. Like, I think that was a huge missed opportunity for them after 2 to be like, okay, it's a lot. I think the rumor was they were making something called Border Worlds to a certain extent, and I guess that just turned into Borderlands 3. I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on that. It was Godfall a publishing deal, or was that developed in Gearbox?
That was published by Gearbox,
Okay.
because the company that made it, I forget what their name is, but yeah, they're definitely not related to Gearbox.
Let me find out who created the game here. Developer was Counterplay Games. Feel bad for you guys to a certain extent, because all I hear about Godfall is that it's not good. It is interesting that Wonderlands did so well, they're going to spin it off into its own franchise now. I mean, they would have to do something very different to make this more viable. I mean, are they going to do the same things in Wonderlands for the sequel? Like, make it a quasi D&D based kind of game? Because I can see that kind of niche getting old, like, fairly quickly. Like Wonderlands sounded to me like, oh, that's an interesting side project. Like, I don't see. I think turning this into a franchise might be a bad idea. I think, at least. But what do you think? You played it, so what do you think?
Honestly, it's kind of an interesting sort of direction to go with the game, because I know everyone kind of loved the Borderlands 2 expansion that basically was a giant D&D campaign narrated by Tiny Tina, and that's kind of where Wonderlands sort of picks up off of. It's yet another D&D-ish campaign that she's running. So, I mean, it's interesting, but yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know how much longevity there is for the brand to kind of go in that direction. And And that's not to frown or poo-poo on the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can from some magical way or talent figure a way how to make it fresh, then cool, awesome.
I mean,
more power to them.
I mean, like, it made the sales, so they must have done something right in that game for people to buy it as much as they did. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Borderlands is more popular than I've ever realized. So maybe that's the case. But I just, making that into a franchise. Unless, all right, here's an idea. What if she finds the Shadowrun game and makes a Shadowrun version of Wonderlands? Maybe that's
that would be kind of neat. Yeah. Not gonna lie,
go ahead.
As a big cyberpunk fan, the pen and paper RPG in particular, I would be very interested.
There we go. They can now steal our idea. So, yeah, that could work. I mean, that might be the niche they can go through. It's interesting. Like, and they just got bought out by Embracer, correct? On that,
yes,
they're now an
correct.
Embracer group. Yeah. So that's good on them, and Embracer needs hits because they're not getting a big of a hit with Saints Row. Apparently, I mean, they are going to make their money back, but not much else is what we're hearing now in regards to the Saints Row game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will end up being a big franchise for them, along with Borderlands. But I think just sticking too many hands in the Borderlands pie is a bad business move. I think in this type of not only in this type of business, but in this type of environment for video games, you want to diversify what you do. Because if one franchise, look at what Microsoft's going through right now. When one franchise goes down, everything starts to suffer. Like, if they had, like with Halo right now, if let's say Borderlands starts going downhill, but they have this other franchise that's doing very well, they can then divert the money back into that other franchise and then rework Borderlands into something different while that franchise is making all the cash. I mean, that's not a bad idea. So I just don't think they should be making more Borderlands content. I don't think that's what a lot of people are asking for. Again, maybe I'm wrong. But then again, there's also the Tales of Borderlands series, so I probably am wrong on this. Zero, we are at the end of this podcast. And as always, I have a question for you. Now, if any of you have questions for me or Zero, you can comment on the bottom of this podcast segment for a question that you may have for us. You can also email us at zerowizcast@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at CapitalGamesPod. And if you have a question, you can always ask a question on one of my Twitter posts. So, numerous ways to get in contact with us if you have a question for us to ask. But anyway, Zero, here is my question. We not only do a games podcast, we also do a movie podcast. And I was going to save this for the movie one, but I wanted to hear your answer for this question specifically. Two things were shown off this past week in regards to movies based on game franchises. The first was that Onimusha is being turned into an anime from Netflix, which kind of surprised me since they gutted their entire animation division. But apparently, Capcom is fronting the money to make an Onimusha anime, and the hero is going to be modeled after Toshiro Mifune, which plus on me for that one. What did you think of the announcement of the Onimusha anime?
It's interesting, especially since the Onimusha franchise has been on ice, and the only thing it's gotten in recent years is the first game has gotten a few remakes on modern day gaming platforms, and that's about all the series has even seen.
And that didn't do very well. I mean, I remember that going on sale rather quickly when it came out. So.
Oh yeah, so yeah, just nothing that I expected from the series, and it was just like, wow, there's actually some stuff going on. Okay, cool, neat.
Yeah, from what I saw, they only showed like 4 screenshots, and it looked neat. But I kind of have to agree. Why are they going to this brand? Really? I mean, I'm kind of shocked with Like, and they're not the only company that's doing this. A lot of companies are using dormant IPs in order to make TV shows or auctioning onto movies. Like, we had one a few weeks ago where Sega was trying to do a Comic Zone movie or a Space Channel 5 movie. And they haven't made any of those games in decades. I don't get that to a certain extent. Like, even if you have nostalgia for it, you're nostalgic for the game. You're not nostalgic to see a movie about it. So I don't get this at all. Like, for Capcom. But would I be interested in it? Sure. But again, like, are they doing this in hopes it'll drum up more excitement for a possible game? If that's the case, I don't think that's a smart idea. Because unless the show is fantastic, like, especially with Netflix, all people do is new show comes on, they binge the 8 episodes, on to the next one. And it's pretty much forgotten after that. So I don't, because views won't matter as much in that circumstance. So I'm not sure, like, if this is a good idea. I mean, what do you think?
It'll be neat to see when it pops on Netflix and everything. But again, I'm kind of with you. Just, this is neat, but I don't really see much. I don't really see much of a clamor for this sort of thing. But just hey, if Capcom wants to do it to try to drum up some excitement in hopes of maybe spinning off an Onimusha game in the future, cool. Good effort on them. But yeah, this is not something that I am expecting to sell gangbusters or anything. So no. I'm also additionally confused on why they're doing this.
Right. I agree. I think it will get decent views, but unless it's fantastic, it'll be a 1 or 2 day thing that people talk about, and then it'll be forgotten. And that's not gonna work, really. Like, I think maybe they're hoping it's an Edge Runner situation where people watch Edge Runners, they really like it, and then they go play Cyberpunk 2077 and buy that on sale. Maybe that's the mentality, but even then, like, Onimusha is like a 20-year-old game. Like, is it like 20 years old now?
Yeah, it was a PS2 game.
Yeah. Oh my god! Wow. Yeah, that's right. They haven't made a new one since Onimusha Dawn of Demons. What was the last Onimusha? Like, Onimusha's been is only PS2, right? They never made a PS3 or PS4 version.
Nope. I mean, there have been some remaster collections, but that's been about it.
Yeah. So yeah, like this. Yeah, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it, to be completely honest. What I do get, though, is The Last of Us being made into an HBO TV series, to a certain extent. I get it. And they showed off the teaser this week for The Last of Us. This is the one that's coming out in 2023, starring Pedro Pascal. Were you able to watch the teaser?
Yep, I was.
Okay, good. I like Pedro Pascal. He's a charming actor. He was especially charming in the small bit he was in with Game of Thrones. And I'll be honest too, I haven't seen much of The Mandalorian. The Star Wars I'm just not a fan, really. I'll watch the movies, but asking me to watch a 10-episode series, nah, sorry. For him to play Joel in the game, and I didn't beat the game because I didn't like the gameplay very much in The Last of Us, but I definitely enjoy the characterization and stories. Joel comes off as a dick most of the times, an unlikable, kind of detestable person, but for good reasons. I don't know if Pedro Pascal can pull that off. Maybe I'd like to be wrong on that. I really do. And if he does, great. I will. That would be cool. Yeah, I don't. Him playing Joel, I kind of don't see to a certain extent. Maybe they do. This is also a fair thing too to say. Maybe they change it enough to where Pedro Pascal can fit into the role better. Okay, good. But from what they've shown from the teaser, they seem to be really marrying themselves to the source material, which is the game. And so much so that they're name-dropping Neil Druckmann in the trailer, which I will point out that is probably a bad idea to a certain extent. But I'll give it a shot. But after the whole controversy with 2, unless you are really spacing everything out where maybe you don't get into part 2 until the final season, I hope they do something different with the series and not just stick religiously to the game. But then that will piss off people who are fans of the games, so they're in an untenable situation. I'm interested, but I'm cautiously interested. What do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of the same way when I saw the trailers. I was like, oh, neat, just it looks like they're really going hard into the aesthetic of the game and everything, the dilapidated towns and whatever. Right. So whoever's their set designer, man, they really studied the living shit out of the game, which is great.
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, just my ultimate concern is much like yours, just how much are they sticking to the established story of the game? Because if they're sticking to it 1-to-1, then potentially people who have played the game are just going to kind of write it off as boring. We've already seen that before.
Well, but you'd be surprised, because there are people who, like with comic books, for example, if they don't stick 1-to-1 to the comic books, they hate it. Like, they just want what's comfortable and what they are comfortable with. And I can see people looking at The Last of Us thing, if they change one iota of it, I'm going to hate it. So there is that contingency to a certain extent. I think the smart idea would be to change it up, to be completely honest, is to do something, maybe stick to the plot, but change it enough where you can go to different directions in the series. But then my question then becomes, well, people notice what happens at 2, and 2 was very divisive. I know it won Game of the Year, but when that happened, people were like, ugh. Like, there were a lot of people who were like, that won Game of the Year? What? Like, that... Like, people were not happy with what they did with... There's a large group. Love them or hate them, but there are a large group of people who are fans of The Last of Us who were not happy with what they did with 2, and what they specifically did to a character in that game. Are you going to stick to that? Because if you are, then you're just delaying the inevitable till someone goes, oh, they did the same thing in 2. Oh, this is terrible. And you're back at square one all over again. And then that leads to Neil Druckmann. I get Neil Druckmann is a creative force towards the game, and he deserves credit for 1, and to those who love 2, okay, he deserves credit for that. But he's also a divisive figure now. Now you're going to have someone goes, oh, wait, who's this Neil Druckmann guy? Let me Google it. Oh, there's this large group of people who hate Neil Druckmann. Why is this? And they go down the rabbit hole as to why they don't like Neil Druckmann. I mean, I don't know. Like, a part of me is like, I get he deserves the credit for it, because if it wasn't for him, like, this was his creativity that created this. So he does deserve credit. But to put that on Main Street, even though he is now considered a divisive figure, a divisive person, which I will say is not fair to a certain extent. Like, in my opinion, I don't think that's entirely fair. Yeah, like, I would like to know what direction they're going in this series. Because if they're just going to stick religiously to the game, I'm now less and less interested in it. But if they're going to branch out into different things throughout the series, then okay, fine. Like, I will look forward to it. But yeah, I don't know, Zero. Like, because the spoiler for 2 is out there now. Like, can you imagine someone really watching this series and being like, I wonder what happens in the second one? And then they find out and go, what? They did what? In the second, what? And then saying, well, I'm not going to watch this. Like, am I wrong? Like, could you see that happening, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I mean, I could most certainly see that being a possibility. Just people going, "Wow, that's what happens in this." Okay, yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all, or that doesn't sound like it. It's going to be a fun plot line to go down, or whatever.
Well, The Last of Us, in terms of a story, is not a fun story. It is a
No.
It is a sobering, a very serious type of story, which, I'm all for. Like, I'm cool with that. I mean, you're asking to get attached to characters at a certain extent, and I have no problem, essentially, with what 2 did, story-wise. Like, I know the spoilers are out there, but I'm not going to talk about it. But I'm fine with it, because I've seen plenty of movies that are divisive and play with people's expectations and love the hell out of them. Like, Fargo is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that played with people's expectations all the time, and I loved it for it. But it just depends on what you do. But people were not happy. Like, a lot of people were just not happy when they found out what happened in 2. So I don't know. But then it's double-edged sword. Either you piss off the people who love 2, or you piss off the people who didn't like 2. And then if you're doing The Last of Us 1, you're going to piss off the people who are going to be like, well, I don't want to rewatch the game. That's stupid. And then you're going to have also people who are going to be pissed off going, oh, you're doing something different than what I recall? That's stupid. Like, I just think this was a bad idea to develop into a game because of a movie or a series, because of how specifically divisive it is. Like, I think this will get a season, maybe 2, and that's it. Because I think this is a very expensive series. So, and this is the same thing that happened with the Game of Thrones. Like, Game of Thrones costs a ton of money, and the only reason why HBO went forward with Game of Thrones was because they sunk so much money into it. The original, if you read up about the original pilot of Game of Thrones, it didn't turn out very well, and HBO made the decision basically to then, okay, we'll give you more money since we've already put more money into this. Reshoot it with a different director, please. And that's how you got Game of Thrones as it is today, essentially. Like, I can see them doing that with The Last of Us for maybe 2 seasons, and that's it. I don't.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting to just see how this all pans out. Because I know I sure as hell will be real curious. But, yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion either way, mostly because of the fact that just I tried to play through 1, couldn't get through it, and then I never ended up picking up 2 since I didn't beat Last of Us 1.
My nephew played through 1, which I was shocked by because he was 9 or 10 at the time, and I'm like, your mom let you play that? I was like, wait a minute. I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, what did you think of it? Oh, it was great. I can't wait to play 2. And then when I found out what was in 2, I'm like, I'm not letting him play that. When the sex scene happens, and like when I heard about the sex scene, essentially it was like, yeah, you're not playing that. I don't care. Like, I don't care if your mom doesn't care. I'm not letting you play that. Like, forget that. Like, I actually own 2, and I got on sale for like $5 once, and he saw, oh great, I'm gonna play that. Like, no, you're not. It's like, there's no fucking way I'm letting you play that. And he's like, why? My mom doesn't care. I'm like, I care. like I care that you're playing that. Nah, you're not playing that. When he gets older, like I guess 13 or 14, maybe I would be like, okay, fine, whatever. But at that age, fuck no, I'm not allowing that. All right. Well, on that note, we are at the end of this podcast. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time where we talk about the latest that's going on in the gaming industry. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.